In today's video, I will be having a conversation with one of my friends, a fabulous Black woman, about her financial journey. My goal is to normalize us having conversations about money so we can remove the stigma, overcome any financial shame, and inspire more Black women to pursue financial freedom. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Let's get into it. Hey, Anita girl.
Hello, Miss Malika.
Look, like I always say on my channel, how you doing? How you been?
How you been?
Yeah.
Doing good, been well.
I know that's right. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for agreeing to chat with me today. Our conversation today will be part of the series on my channel titled Black Women and Wealth Conversations. And the reason why I wanted to start this series is so Black women can come together to talk about our money, our personal finance journey. Because I find a lot of times we struggle with our finances because there's shame, or we think we're the only ones dealing with that challenge, or we think everyone else is doing better than we are. So I feel like having these conversations about money, number one, it helps to normalize talking about money. It helps other Black women remove any shame about their financial journey. And I hope it will inspire Black women to pursue financial independence, or whatever financial goal they may have. And once you see someone that looks like you doing it, then you know it's possible for you too. Right? Mm-hmm. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you for joining me. I wanted to get to the nitty gritty about your money. Yes.
Got it. Let's talk
How
about
would
it.
you describe the current state of your finances?
Um, Actually pretty good. From, literally started at the bottom, now we're here.
I know that's right.
I have really the life that I want at this point.
That's the goal.
I'm not stressed about the things I could have that I really am not interested in having.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to someone the other day, I have reached a point where my spending is divorced from my income. I spend on the things that matter to me, and the income that I receive is not really related to that.
Right.
So
have you always had a high income?
um I would say, when I first started working, I had a probably normal for the job I had income.
Mm-hmm.
But it was higher than what you would have expected from somebody who was like 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
was also married young. So we both had pretty decent income. So we had a fairly high household
Household
income.
income.
For our
Okay.
age.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, okay. But as your income continued to grow, what I think I hear you saying is that your expenses did not grow with your income.
Not in proportion to the increase in my income. Now, other things happened, like, Rugrat arrived and
Children are expensive, girl.
you know, but in proportion to what you might call lifestyle inflation, no, not even
Let's
close.
stop creating. Yeah. Fi, or are you pursuing fi?
I am fi, but there's a story there.
Okay.
Because I've
Give me
achieved
the nitty gritty.
twice. Okay, twice. Let's talk about it.
Okay,
So
say that again. I'm sorry.
twice. I had to achieve it twice.
Okay.
Because I learned about the fire movement in my early 20s.
Oh.
Yeah, when I got married a million years ago, my now ex-husband was like, you know what? I want to retire by the time I'm 56. And I was like, oh, okay, we can make this a mission. All right. So, I was all of like 23, 24 years old. I went looking for, okay, so how does one achieve this thing? Right. I read your Money or Your Life, and I subscribed to Money Magazine, and I even subscribed to the, Tight White Gazette. I mean, I was on that kind of, we have time. We're 23, 24 years old. The best thing we're going to have is time. So I actually, kind of made that the family mission in a lot of ways when we were young, without a whole lot of expenses of, like, Rugrats, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so when that started, we achieved FIRE. I think the first time, I think we were in our like mid 30s, I want to say, like right around like between 30 and 35.
Okay, let's add a little bit of context to the conversation. Can you tell us what FI is?
Sure, it's financial independence. So basically, a point where if you wanted to, you could kind of walk away from your, work for hire, and basically be good. Like your investments, your sources of income, passive income, have reached a state where they cover your expenses, and they will cover your expenses presumably for the rest of your life, assuming that the bottom doesn't fall out.
Okay. And you reached FI at what age?
I think we were in, I want to say, like between 30 and 35. I mean, there was some other stuff going on there. But yeah, I definitely remember crunching numbers in our early 30s and being like, okay, all right. I mean, we can kind of just keep it. It allowed us, once the Rugrat came, I shouldn't talk about my child that way. But it
only can.
Yeah, it allowed us to take our foot off the gas a little bit, because we had spent our 20s building that foundation.
Right.
You heard me say I achieved it twice. Right?
Yeah. So what's that about?
What that was about, what happened was, fast forward to roughly 24 years into the marriage, and I find out that my now ex-husband had done some serious financial damage, financial infidelity, fraud, tax fraud, credit card fraud, you name it. And so where I thought I was not where I actually was. And as a result of when I came out of the divorce, I was still technically a millionaire, but I wasn't FI any longer. So then it was rebuilding time, right? Because along the way, I was like, well, shoot, I want to retire. I was kind of mad that I was well on my way to retire when I wanted to. And then it's like, like, oh, hell no. So in my mind, I was like, I'm still on that retire at 56 thing.
Now why 56? What was that?
That was the number where we had settled on. I don't know why at the time. I do know why at the time. It was because that was the number where, assuming that we stayed pretty much with a similar employer that had the pension and all of that, that would be when we would be eligible for all the full retirement benefits.
Okay.
So, getting out of my divorce, having to kind of look at the finances and say, okay, how is this going to work? So I did get back to FI. It took 2 years.
Only 2 years?
Yeah, it took 2 years after my divorce. To get back to FI. And so I am FI again. Yay. And working towards kind of the retire early. Now I'm actually onto the fat FIRE. Almost with my fat FIRE.
So let's unpack a little bit, if you don't mind. So the financial infidelity, you got a divorce, and it set you back. Did it set you back because you had to split the assets and that's what no longer made you FI, or you had to give up a lot?
No, what bumped us out of FI was the extent of the financial infidelity.
Mm.
What I was able to find vaguely out about was at least $500,000 that I knew of, including, and then you add on top of that all of the gains that would have happened from that money. And, and then you kind of start to see over several years, because this was at least half a decade
Years in the
of
making.
shenanigans, years
Years
in
in the making.
So, when I had, this is our family's net worth in my mind, subtract about $1 million from that, and you're a little closer to what the reality is.
Do you mind sharing how you found out about the financial infidelity?
Well, I will say thank you to, I won't name the name of the company, but thank you to their credit card fraud department. Because
Ah,
I was working from home, and I got a random call from, credit. We are the credit card fraud department. We want to talk to you about your credit card. And I'm
right.
like, I don't have a credit card. And I don't know what you're talking about. And here comes my ex-husband, like, I'll handle it. I'll handle it. I was like, that's not how we roll. I'm just going to tell them I have a credit card, can they shut it down and keep it moving. And that's when he said, I did it. I opened up the credit card, and I looked at him and I said, I'm sorry, you do know that's a crime, right? You go to jail for that. That's credit card fraud.
Because it was in
And
your name?
yes, he opened up a credit card in my name.
Oh,
Yes. 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 This is deep. So when I tell people that I went from being married for 24 years to getting a divorce in a day, I'm not joking.
4 years.
24 years. By the end of that day, actually probably by the early afternoon, because this was early in the morning, I found out about the credit card fraud. I found out that he had cleared out his cash accounts. He didn't have the money he was supposed to keep, because our deal was that we each kept a fairly significant portion of money in our for our family emergencies, right? Gone, not there. I found out about hundreds of thousands of dollars of credit card debt that he had racked up. Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And some of this was in your name, so it
No,
affected.
all
No.
in his. It was
Oh,
all in
okay.
his. The
Okay.
reason he opened up the credit card in my name is that he ran out of credit that he could open in his name.
Oh my goodness. So he could have still had this charade going.
He could have. That's why I said thank you to the credit card fraud department.
Somebody, oh my. Wow.
Yes, you feel me? You feel me?
I feel you.
And then you had, and that wasn't the end of it. Then you had all the assets that he had taken out of his 401k, because he had to make withdrawals. He had loans to get his 401k. That's why I say the money that I was able to find, easily $500,000. And there's probably more. My lawyer just told me, you probably don't even want to know. Just get out.
And you made that decision immediately.
In a day. I remember standing in our kitchen, and saying, we're done, right? There's no coming back from this.
Now, I've never been married, so take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But I'm just saying this based on what I have observed from other married women. 24 years of marriage. Was it difficult for you to make an on-the-spot decision, like same day, we're done after 24 years?
It actually wasn't, because, how do I put this? Because he knew how I grew up. I grew up as a ward of the state. I grew up being raised by my grandmother. I grew up living off of what the Social Security benefits from my mother, who was deceased. I worked my way through college. I literally started with a significant but little bit of generational wealth that I put into our first house. So, as one of my girlfriends said, he would have been better off cheating on you with another woman, because the way I'm set up, my money is not just money. It literally started from the bottom and now we're here.
Yes, yes, yes. I get it.
The extent of it, and it was the pile on of the lies over the course of that day. That's what it was, because I was trying to figure out, why did you have to open up a credit card in my name? Like, don't you have your cash?
Your own life.
Don't you have your own credit card? What is going on? And so, he was lying to my face throughout that day, because I was trying to figure it out. And then I would be like, oh, so how much credit did you get with my credit rating? I was like, he told me. I was like, okay, so I'm trying to understand this. And then when he told me his answer and he went away, I went and ran his credit report. And I was like, so you said you only had like this much credit debt? He's like, yeah, I told you. I said, so why does your credit report say like hundreds of thousands of dollars more than what you just told me?
You already caught, bro. Why are you still lying?
Exactly. Why? And then was like, you looked at my bank accounts, you ran my credit report. Basically, how dare you? So, girl, I wasn't playing these things. Exactly. Which one of us woke up and chose fraud? Okay. And then had to deal with, because it wasn't done. Remember, I said the 401k withdrawals? Sis, let's talk about it. We had a joint tax return. Who came knocking 3 years after we got divorced?
The IRS.
Telling me, or sending me a notification that because this person, right, withdrew hundreds of thousands of dollars from his 401k and had to hide it and did not declare it on our joint tax return, and makes
you look like a fraud.
Exactly, which is why the IRS was like, you owe us thousands of dollars and we don't care which one of you we get it from.
With penalties and late fees and oh my God.
Yeah. So I say all that to say, no, it really wasn't that hard, because all of the things that came out, each one was like a slap in the face. Each one was like a dagger to the heart. I was like, I can't even, like, I don't even know who you are.
Right. After 24 years of marriage, who are you?
I don't even know who you are. But whoever this is, I damn well know I'm not going to stay married to you 1 minute longer than I have to. This is actually an important story about the power of having girlfriends and having a friendship, a female friendship circle that's got your back, right?
Yes.
I was literally standing in my house. I texted my girlfriend who'd been through something similar. And I said, I need to talk to you. Something went down. And she's like, I got you. We can talk at this time. I left my house because I didn't want to have that conversation in the house. Drove to a local supermarket, in the parking lot, got on the phone with her. I was like, girl, this is what happened. You went through something similar. What do I do? And she's like, you getting out? I said, I'm getting out. What do I do? And she ran it down for me. She's like, to protect yourself, you need to file immediately. You need to do this. You need to shut off his access to all of your accounts. I mean, she ran down the checklist. And then I said to her, I said, so who did you use to get you out? And because I knew that the attorney she used had helped her get, really get away clean, because her ex-husband had cleaned her out completely with shame. And she told me his name, and I said, would you recommend him? She's like, yes. I said, good, done. If he's good enough for you, he's good enough for me. Talk. This was a Thursday. Talked to that man on Friday, sent him a retainer. I was filed by the end of the month, and I was divorced 6 months later.
Wow. You were not playing.
I was not playing.
You were not playing. Wow.
No.
So you moved fast enough where he couldn't do any more damage, I assume.
He couldn't do any more damage. That the longer I delayed moving, the more he would be able to argue that I was accepting responsibility for his debt. That's why the advice was, you have got to file as quickly as possible to stop the clock on when you found out about it and when you did something about it.
Hold on. That's so good to know. Because I'm sure there is a Black woman that's in a marriage where she's thinking about leaving because of some financial issue and her heart won't let her. Say that one more time.
You've got to basically shorten the period between when you found out and when you get out, because the longer that takes, the more the spouse you're leaving will be able to argue that you should have taken some of that debt because you didn't take immediate action.
So
I
you can be held accountable
exactly.
for some of his debt.
Yeah. The way I got out, when I got out, he took all of his debt.
Mhm.
I took, because he's sneaky, I took 80% of the sale price of the house because
Okay.
I could afford it, but I didn't want it.
Okay.
And so we sold it. And I kept all of my retirement investments, and I took the joint investment account that we had. And I also took custodial control over our son's college fund because I didn't trust him with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, he left with, he didn't leave a pauper. Because of all the work that we had done, he still was, pretty good in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't left with like two pennies to rub together. He
Right,
still,
right.
he still had to deal with all his debt, and that was his issue.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so
That was very generous of you to
it
leave
was,
something.
I did with that. Well, my lawyer was basically like, you got to leave him with something because you're not taking any of his debt.
Mm.
Oh
Okay.
well.
Okay. Okay. Now, what happened to the credit card that he ran up in your name? Did you have to pay for the?
Oh no, no, no. I had him immediately return the advances because that's what he wanted. He wanted cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
Immediately return the advances, close the account, and give me the physical card. And I checked on my credit reports that he did it, and that was the price of not calling the cops.
I know, right? Wow. You've been through the ringer. So you come from being a ward of the state, raised by your grandmother, parents deceased, building the wealth on your own, basically by yourself. Then you get married early, y'all build together, but half of the marriage was probably financial infidelity.
Yeah, probably at
So
least 10 years.
half of the marriage you were being deceived. I'll say that. Half of the marriage you were being deceived. So you have another setback, and then you rebuild again.
Mm-hmm.
Girl.
Actually, I'm going to take a moment to be proud of myself.
Let's pause. You did that. That's resilience. Wow. But what I like that you said in the beginning is it sounds like you don't focus on the negative parts of your experience and the struggles to get to where you are because you're like, I'm fine. I'm not stressed. I can pretty much do whatever.
I would say that, but what I would say is I am when these things happen, I'm about getting to the other side. I'm about, this is what needs to happen. And I can, yes, there are going to be moments where I have to kind of process it, but at the end of the day, my life is going to be what I create it to be. And I also, in that situation, leaning on my spiritual path, quite honestly, I was like, this is not about me. Like, I didn't do something to deserve these shenanigans.
Right.
This is about whatever his deficiencies are. Now, my work was to figure out what was it in me that deep down made me think that he was the best I deserved.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
So that was my work.
Right.
And I did that work.
Right.
But the idea of kind of saying, I can't believe that, I thought I had, so much more than I actually did, and the deception, none of that is going to get me to where I want to go. At the end of the day, his punishment will be the life he has to lead, and my reward will be the life that I make for myself.
Absolutely. If you had to go back 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when the infidelity started, is there anything you would have done differently? Or is there anything you would suggest married women do to prepare so that it reduces the impact if that were to happen?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I actually have to give credit to my grandmother.
Come
She was
on, Grandma.
yeah, she was born in 1917.
Mhm.
And she's long passed, but even when I was coming up, she stressed financial independence as a woman.
Mm.
She stressed always have your own coin, baby.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember it. And so when I got married, and his family was that, like, you join everything together and we're one pot and all this and the other. My grandmother was like, you can do that if you want to, baby, but like I always say, always have your own coin. Hmm.
Grandma was always in your ear.
So we didn't commingle all of our finances.
Mm.
We had a joint account for household expenses, and we had a joint investment account, but everything else was separate, right?
Mm.
Even our credit, completely different. We never ever had a joint credit card,
Ah.
ever.
Mhm.
And so I say to people, the fact that our finances weren't commingled made it easier for him to hide what he was doing. But the fact that we didn't have our finances commingled made it easier for me to get out.
Mhm.
And of the two, I'd still choose easier to get out.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, because he couldn't clean out. The reason he had to resort to the fraud is that he couldn't get at my money.
Mhm.
He couldn't get at my cash. He couldn't get at my 401k or my IRA.
You weren't secretive about
No,
anything. You were
no,
transparent. You just didn't commingle
I
your.
didn't. I was always transparent.
Mhm.
Every move that I made, everything that I wanted, and sometimes I would talk to him and say, I'm thinking about doing this. And he's like, oh, okay, well, when you're ready, go right ahead. Um, but yeah, I would say that for married women who are kind of financial dependence is hard, because for whatever reason, it doesn't have to be my situation, but for whatever reason, when you want to go, you need to put yourself in a situation where you can go.
Can go.
You
Right.
can, because unfortunately, I have heard of too many women who want to leave and they literally cannot, because they cannot afford it. Either they do not have the skills. I mean, I will tell you, I also never put myself in a situation where I was 100% dependent upon my ex-husband. There
Mhm.
was a time our child has special needs, and when he was about 7-ish, we decided together that one of us should work part-time for a little while, just because to concentrate on him. So my job was more flexible. I went part-time. I went from 40 hours making, what I made, to 25 hours making what I made. And even with that real decrease in my take-home pay, I said to him, I said, here's some conditions. I am not going to lower the amount that I contribute to my 401k. I still maxed out my
Mm.
401k. I
Mhm.
still had a regular, transfer to my savings.
Mhm.
I said, we're just going to have to reconfigure this household budget so that I can still do that. From my perspective, the situation, what we were deciding to do as a family for the benefit of our son was temporary. I did not want to have permanent financial hits off of something that we as a family decided to do for our child that we knew was going to be temporary. And I did that for about 2 or 3 years. But I also said, I don't want you to reduce maxing out your 401k. I don't. So we're going to have to figure this out. And we
Mhm.
did.
Okay.
But
How did you recover from that so quickly? What is your, if you don't mind me asking, your investment strategy, or how did you get back to your FI number? And then you can talk about your Fat FI
right.
bonus.
Well, I do have an advisor. I know some folks shy away from that or don't believe in that, et cetera. But I also believe in know thyself and know
Mhm.
what you're interested in
Mhm.
and get the help that you need for how you want to live. Right. So I'll just say that. How did I get back to the FI number and the fat FI? I think what I would say one is knowing where I stood and after I came out of the marriage and dealing with that reality
Mhm.
and being actually really intentional about these are the goals, being very communicative with my advisors, quite frankly the person who advises me, whereas before it was how soon can I retire based on what I have, and I didn't like that number, so it was okay, what needs to happen in order for me to retire at the number I want to retire at.
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't look at my present circumstances and tell me what I can do. I'm telling you what I want, and you tell me how we're going to get there.
Get there. Yes.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is believing that it can be done with a plan and proper execution. I was like, nah, this is what it's gonna be, folks. So we're gonna work on this together. I will do my part. You make sure you do your part. I will hold you accountable and we're going to get it done. I had to give thought to what really mattered to me and what
Mhm.
made me happy and leaving space for what makes that work, what makes me happy answer to change over time. Right.
Mhm.
Because what made me happy 10 years ago is not the same thing that makes me happy today. So I spent some time, even before, as I was going through this right after my marriage, I was like, no, 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 this is what my goal is. But I spent some time really thinking about and doing that work on what truly makes me happy. Because remember, I was married from basically 23 to 48. I
Mm.
had to figure out what made Anita happy
Mm.
separate from being in a relationship with my ex-husband, because so much of my decisions, rightly so, were about the relationship and the family and what was best for them and etc. So it was okay, what do I want
Yeah.
and what makes me happy?
Yeah.
um, and I do find I live very differently since
Mm.
my divorce. I hadn't realized just how much of how I lived was dictated by the gentleman I was living with
Mm.
versus how I would live alone. And yeah, and so it was 2 years after that I got back to the FI number based on my new reality. And
Mhm.
now it's the fat fire number based on really just, extra cushion.
And what's Fat Fire?
Fat fire is basically where you are able to, spend it's pretty much more than your fire number. Like your fire number is like, okay, here's my living expenses times 25. I guess some people might say your living expenses times 50. But and that's probably roughly what it is. But I think of it as, if you just want to ball out, you can,
Mhm.
and you'll be cool. Am I
Mhm.
going to ball out? No. But it also, for me, um, it's just nice to know that that's what that number is. Right
Okay.
now, it's roughly like I think 30% over my FI number.
Okay. This gives you an extra cushion, huh? Okay. Okay. So at age 56, when
Mhm.
that age comes, It won't be long.
Oh,
Time
oh
flies.
no, it's not long at all.
So you're planning to retire early after?
Yes. Yeah, I am, well, I think you say the phrase work optional.
Yes.
Um, so I plan on work optional. And that's what I actually have told the folks that I'm working with on my finances. I was like, look, I need to be work optional at 56. None of this like, oh well, if you get a part-time. Did you hear me say I need to be work optional at 56?
Okay. I don't want to have to do anything.
I don't want to have to do anything. You know? So and that's where we're working towards.
If you enjoyed that conversation about Anita's financial independence journey and you would like to hear more Black women and wealth conversations, I will include the link here so you can watch more videos with other Black women talking about their personal finance journey. In my next video, I will share more tips about how you can pursue financial independence. If this is something that you would enjoy, please subscribe to my channel and turn on that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. My name is Malika, and I'm the financial coach and founder of Fabulous Financials, where I help Black women manage money with ease to build wealth and live whatever you love. Until next time, bye for now.